We enter the third week of Advent. The imminent feast of Christmas tends to heighten our anticipation of the gifts of Christmas. The angels greeted the shepherds with the blessings of peace. Pope Francis says that peace is a sign of a vibrant Christian life. During this week, we will pay close attention to the persons involved in the story of the mysteries of the Annunciation, the visitation of Mary to her cousin Elizabeth, and the Nativity. We begin with Elizabeth's husband, Zechariah, who was a priest in the Jerusalem temple. He would play a key role in God's plan of salvation because of his righteousness and obedience. God worked a miracle in his life to provide a herald, namely John the Baptist. John would announce the coming of the Messiah. The life of Jesus was divinely planned. Zechariah was a descendant of Abijah, one of Aaron's 24 grandsons. As descendants of Aaron, they were all priests by right of their birth, whether they lived a good life or not. There were many priests, in fact, in the section of Zechariah alone. There were 800 priests serving in Jerusalem and its surrounding towns and villages: Ain Karen, Bethlehem, Bethphage, Bethany, to name a few. There were 20,000 priests in the 24 sections. The priests had ordinary jobs in the community. They were married. They took care of their families. They had jobs like scribes, carpenters, farmers, fishermen, etc. This provided income to sustain their families. In the Holy of Holies, in the temple, there were 2 rooms. The inner room housed the ark, where the tablets of the covenant. These were the second of the tablets. Moses smashed the first set of the tablets of the covenant over the idol of the golden calf which the Israelites foolishly made and worshipped during the Exodus. The priests would go in and burn incense during the holy times of Passover, Pentecost, and the Feast of Tabernacles. Obviously, since there were so many priests, they were chosen by lot to enter on a single day. Luke tells us that Zechariah was chosen by lot to perform the incense offering. It was a privilege for which each priest prayed. But Zechariah had another prayer besides this desire to offer incense. Every Jewish couple looked forward to having children. They were following the command of Yahweh, who gave the order to the first parents, "Go forth, increase, and multiply." A child was a definite blessing and a gift from God. But Elizabeth and Zechariah were old. She was past the age of childbearing. However, they trusted in the Lord. They did not stop praying. They knew that nothing was impossible with God. When Zechariah ministered at the altar of incense, an angel of the Lord appeared and announced to him that his wife would give birth to a son, whom he was to name John, and that this son would be the forerunner of the Lord. Zechariah was completely taken aback by this prophecy. It was an utter surprise. He questioned whether this angel had made a mistake. He asked for a sign to make sure that the message he received was in fact correct, without being lost in translation. The angel revealed himself as Gabriel. He scolded Zechariah for being incredulous. Zechariah, who was dumbfounded at this message, was in fact struck dumb. He would no longer be able to speak until the child was born. Then the prophecy would be fulfilled. But who could charge him for finding this incredible? Yahweh was calling Elizabeth and Zechariah to some wondrous plan that Yahweh had for the salvation of the Jews. Every Jew had been praying for that grace for some time. Each person is like a mosaic tile. The Lord has a purpose for your life, as the Lord had for Elizabeth and Zechariah. Be aware of the signs of the time. Discern, act, and be generous with the Lord. Great things can happen, more than you and I can dream about. Tomorrow, I invite you to join me as our story continues with Elizabeth, the wife of Zechariah and the cousin of the Virgin Mary.